The Mental Brew podcast, sponsored by Sentinel Computers, your partner in IT security and support, keeping your business safe. Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Mental Brew podcast. Today we have Daire Curley on. So Daire is an entrepreneur. Daire has a really interesting story and he is going to share with us today. So Daire, thanks for coming on, my friend.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So Daire, I suppose starting off as tradition on this podcast, why do you do what you do?
Going straight into the deep
Straight
end.
in, boy. Straight in, no kissing.
Christ. What do I do? What I do? Well, I suppose what do I do? Predominantly, I suppose I help people,
Yeah.
whether that be with their health, their fitness, their business, their mind. It covers various aspects. I suppose my journey over the last number of years has taken many left turns, right turns. I've gone backwards plenty of times and sometimes forwards. So I suppose my background, I suppose, is in competitive bodybuilding. I spent 4 years as a competitive bodybuilder just after dropping out of university, studying engineering, something I just did because all my mates were going to college. So I was like, I'll jump on that as well. Why not? That led me to crazy journey. It allowed me to drop out of university at about 19 years of age, pursue a full-time career in health and fitness, become an online coach, have my own studio in Galway City, then became a Wim Hof method instructor through basically an injury that ended my career, slipped 2 discs in my lower back. More mentally, that ended my career than it did physically, and I'm sure we can jump into that. And now I am predominantly a consultant with Daire Consultancy. So I help other fitness, health, wellness professionals grow, expand their businesses. That's me in a short spell.
Brilliant. Because we obviously work together with Sarah and we get into Sarah there in a while as well. But in terms of your own journey as a business owner, I know you've been involved in various businesses, I suppose, throughout your career. Firstly, before we get into them, right, I suppose what I really want from this podcast is for people listening to it is to get a real insight into someone like yourself who's bought businesses or who has sold businesses, who's moved, traveled essentially abroad, still been able to work, doing what you want to do. So I want to really get into the kind of nuggets of that, right? But the first things first, as a business owner, especially in Ireland at the moment, what were your, I suppose, biggest challenges or what were your biggest stresses for you as a business owner when you're at home on a Monday or Tuesday night going, Jesus, this issue is whatever it is.
Yeah. I suppose looking back on it, and now that I've stepped away, obviously, and I'm not even 2 months actually. So I sold my business in December and moved here to Lithuania. Then looking back on it, I won't say I regret a single minute of it because I really don't. It's anyone that knows out there that having your own business it's incredibly frustrating and it's incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword. It really is. But I suppose the biggest challenges that I faced, and these are purely personal ones, I suppose, was from a hiring perspective.
Okay.
Staff,
Yeah.
right? And there's plenty of incredibly qualified coaches in Ireland and across the world. We've got some great educators. But I suppose it goes so much further than that. And I'm sure other gym owners and studio owners will resonate with this. We can make someone a good coach.
Yeah.
Anybody can be a good coach. I'm a big believer in that. Obviously, it takes time, perseverance, skill, education, but it's hard to teach someone the want or the desire to become a good coach. And not only that, to see further than just a coach,
Yeah.
to see yourself as a business owner. I think this is a huge block that we have in the industry. So many young people or people that are going back to re-educate as personal trainers and stuff like that, they don't realize that they're becoming a business owner.
Yeah.
Like that whole idea is just completely foreign to them. And I get it. They either after coming out of university, maybe their job's up along, but they've always been in a position whereby they work, they get paid.
Yeah.
Right? Where now they transition over to this world where they work, they may not get paid.
Yeah.
So that's a really heavy load to even grasp, right? To even put your head around that. Younger people may be in a slightly better position, whereby, might be still living at home and stuff like that. But, for people who are coming from not necessarily a 9 to 5, but a guaranteed income, a PAYE, right? Going into a self-employed role, I can't even understand the transition mentally that that must take to go away from a guaranteed. If you're a bit older, you're probably going to have responsibilities like rents and bills and cars and all these things.
Yeah.
That's a huge switch, and that is scary. Like that is scary as hell,
I
you
know,
know?
kid. I know.
Yep.
But yeah, I know you're dead right.
So yeah, I suppose that was one of the biggest challenges was staff. I think was my main issue, and just getting them to buy in long term, and it wasn't so much the hiring, I suppose part of it, like I was definitely, I'll put it back on myself, definitely. I think as someone who has worked extensively hard for, well, as long as I can remember, I had my first job when I was 13. I worked in a
Mm,
bar at the weekend. My mom was self-employed, so I was always brought up around like a hard working environment, and it's what I knew. So for me, bringing in someone that didn't have the same passion, drive, answering calls at 2 a.m. because you're just starting out in a business, you're hungry. If someone didn't have that, I couldn't work with that person. But they might have been the best coach in the world and they might have been great at sales.
mm,
But for me, if that hunger and the desire wasn't there, and I guess that goes back to my sporting background as well as a professional bodybuilder, right?
yeah.
Losing was not an option to me. So I suppose it all feeds into my early career as an athlete. I played rugby and athletics and everything as a young kid. I was always very sporty. But that want to win and to prove to myself that I can do this, and that's not in some people. And I had to realize that that's okay. If
Mm,
that's not in some people, it's just not them. I think people need to realize that as well. That if that's not naturally in you, you need to find a super deep why. If that why isn't strong enough, you need to have a serious conversation with yourself and realize is this life for me?
yeah. Yeah, it is a challenge, right, isn't it? Because would say depending, obviously my business would have been different to your business was in the gym. People are coming into you, whereas kind of you've kind of got an offering, a physical offering. They come in, they can lift the weights, they can pound the weights, whereas kind of my
Mm,
my area isn't necessarily as cut and dry as that. So
mm,
there is that kind of worry and whatnot. But are you obviously you're keeping an eye on kind of news and stuff in Ireland, right? There seems to be
hmm
a massive, massive challenge for small businesses in Ireland at the moment, even to stay afloat. You see it in restaurants, obviously,
hmm
things like COVID and stuff and whatnot. I suppose what did you have that kind of pressure of that? Did you feel that kind of was there ever a time where you were worried about the gym closing or whatnot, or was it all kind of just mates, just kind of staffing issues?
Yeah, of course, COVID. COVID nearly destroyed all of us,
Yeah.
not just businesses, small business, big business. Like I had some mates with some incredibly established marketing companies who specialized in hospitality.
Mm.
And within literally a flash, it was gone. I just had a great chat with a guy here in Lithuania last week. He had the same thing. He had a marketing company in business for maybe 6, 7, 8 years, had a really good client list, had multiple staff members. Bang, gone, COVID. Why did they need to market and advertise? They don't, and did they have the cash flow there to do it? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
So COVID was difficult for all of us. I think, I'd be lying if I didn't say the question didn't cross my mind. Like, will this be the end of Elevate? My studio and
Yeah.
my business. Completely lying because it was just the uncertainty of it all. And I suppose I just had to stick to my guns and realize that what I'm doing above all else, above COVID, above anything, I helped so many people, like so many people. And people messaging me the whole way through COVID. My clients, I stayed in contact with everybody. When they opened up, the outdoor training, we were outside in the rain and the wind and the snow. We didn't care, because a gym is a community, first of all.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at a gym. A successful gym, first and foremost, is a community. Everything else after that is, you have your different offerings, your different style of workouts, your saunas, whatever else you want to offer, it's grand. Okay, there's nice benefits. But if you can't build a community first, and if you don't understand how a community works and how to grow and nurture a community, because it does take time and it does take effort. Um, but once you build a community, you just have this incredible support network. Like I
Mm.
had, members reaching out to me who would be in business themselves. A lot of the people that I would have coached back in the day were business owners.
Yeah.
And they would even be reaching out to me, being like, is everything okay? Can we help? Did you see this grant? Oh, click this, here's a link to this most recent grant that they're after releasing for small businesses,
Yeah.
so it was as much as it was a lonely kind of period for me, it was, I suppose, a moment of grace as well. I've been going so hard for so long, and you were just, well, you weren't given a choice, were you? So it was either panic and freak out or just realize that you can't control the uncontrollables. And that's
Yeah,
one of my favorite saying. Like I'm really good at controlling what I can control. If it's outside of that, I'll just do whatever I can to remain calm and react to the situation the best way I can, or
yeah,
be proactive, preferably. So yeah, COVID was difficult. Question did cross my mind, but we survived. I guess I was lucky. I had 3 years in business before COVID hit, and I suppose I had a really loyal, solid client base. Excuse me, built up before that kind of kicked into place. And I suppose as of recent, of course, there's always pressures in a business, no matter if you're making, 6, 7 figures a year, if you're making
mm,
30 or 40K. I think it's not necessarily more money, more problems, but if you have more money, chances are you're scaling. So you're going to have other issues that come along with that. We see that with a lot of our providers in SARE that have 30 and 40 studios.
yeah,
They still have very similar issues to the guy with 10 clients renting a space in a PT gym. And like, to even comprehend that, like, where do we get more leads? You
yeah,
wouldn't think the guy with 30 studios, 100 plus staff members, thousands of members across all the studios would be coming asking us that question. Like, okay, our leads have gone dry. How do we get more?
mm,
Yet I have a guy who's, 6 months qualified, fresh into industry, rented a bit of space in a commercial gym who has, three, four, five clients. Right there, how do I get more leads? And the funny
yeah,
thing is, the process for that guy with thousands of studios, millions in turnover and revenue, and this guy over here just getting industry who's a couple of hundred a month, it's the same process,
yeah,
right? It's community, it's nurturing a community, it's fostering relationships, and it's understanding the sales process. And I suppose recognizing that every time you were speaking to someone, you need to recognize that that is potentially a position that you can sell, right, within your business.
yeah,
Conversations are conversations, obviously, but I think as people who help people, you might notice this as well. We're instinctively more curious about people.
yeah,
Like we tend to want to get to know people, but we want to get to know them a little bit deeper. And
mm,
I don't know if that's just me or if it's our industry in general. And by getting to know that person a little bit deeper, you now are building, a bit of a connection, a bond, as opposed to just a hello and a goodbye. And this goes the same for a phone call or if I meet
yeah,
someone on the street, I'll take the time to talk to someone, always. Especially when it was young guys used to come up to me in the gym. Because I remember being that young guy that would go up to other guys in the gym. And I always would go back to that, even though I was training in LA. And I went up and I met Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he gave me, 4 or 5 minutes of his time.
pass.
To a guy that was 20 years of age, I'd just done 2 shows. Like that was like, that was bonkers. And the same
Yeah,
with a couple of other big names in the industry. They all gave their time to talk to me.
yeah,
And I would always do the same for someone else. But that was our biggest kind of, how do I describe it? I think that's why the gym grew so well so quickly.
yeah,
Was that I took the time to get to know people. And then they came to me with problems or issues, whether it be, I'm overweight or not fit or I want to get into shape. I'd already built that bond and trust with them that it was kind of like, well, from, professional advice would be to do this, this, and this. I
yeah.
can help you with that, you know?
And to bring you way back, I suppose, what's the life of a professional bodybuilder? What does that look like? Is in terms of obviously enough. Say you go back to elevate for a sec, but you go to the gym 5 or 6 o'clock. You when you do your classes, you open up. You hire a
Mhm.
staff, everything else. First, even for me, I can see that. I can say, oh yeah, look, I'm guessing this is what happens as a gym owner. I don't have a clue what the life of a personal bodybuilder would
What life?
be.
That's all I need to know. No, you know what? Look, I loved it as well. I genuinely loved being a bodybuilder, and I may be toying with the idea of going back to it now that I have a
Okay.
bit more time on my hands. And I don't know, just I need to do something. I'm one of those
Yeah.
people who, I sunk my teeth really hard into business there for 6, 7, 8 years, and went as hard as I possibly could and made the absolute best of it. I did the same thing with bodybuilding when I was in it. I can't focus on multiple things at once. My brain doesn't activate like that. I need just
Mm.
one clear channel, clear path, and I will push that as far as humanly possible. And that's what bodybuilding was. I fell into it through, just lifting weights from the age of maybe 14, 15. I was quite overweight when I was around the age of 12, 13,
Mm.
and body just wasn't developing like a normal 13, 14-year old. Starting to get a bit pudgy, soft in places, and developed quite a. So I went back into myself. I was like, I became a quiet, shy kid, and I was never that. I was always very outgoing and active as a younger kid.
Yeah.
Um, and then there was some comments that I suppose really were just the definitive moment when I was 13 at a local lake from where I'm from. Some older kids said, "Nice tits, bitch," basically,
Yeah.
to me. And that was I was 13, maybe going on 14, and I was like, "Oh shit, okay, this is enough now. I need to do something about
Yeah.
how I look." Started doing push-ups in the room, pull-ups, squats, sit-ups, of course, million sit-ups. Don't do anything
Yeah.
dangerous. You start to learn. I started to watch, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Steve Cook, who was a massive idol of mine at the time. I since became a team member with him when I was signed up with Optimum Nutrition. And then at 15, 16, there was a lovely girl in my gym. Sorry, in my school. We had a little gym in the school, big rugby school, Carberley College in Ballinasloe, County Galway. And she started to just show me things in the gym
Yeah.
and just fell in love with this. At the time, I was gone big into rugby. And I suppose then when I went to college, that's when I was like, oh, this college crack is really for me. Let's just go and hammer the gym. And luckily, UL has, an incredible gym. And then a mate said to me one day, geez, you're getting into really good shape, aren't you? It's kind of like, yeah, I'm getting all right, I suppose. He's like, would you ever think of bodybuilding? And I was like, I watch bodybuilders like, and I appreciate them, and I fucking, maybe someday, but geez, I can
Yeah.
never do that. Like, that's not something I can do. He was like, no, I think you can. And I was like, all right, okay, look he had a coach at the time. He wanted to do bodybuilding. I said, put me in contact with your coach. Let's see what we can do. Year later, there I was standing up on stage, winning 3 trophies at the age
Yeah.
of 20. You
Unreal.
know, obviously there was a crazy period in the middle of that, but it was the West. I just turned into a machine. And
Yeah.
that's the fear of going back into it now in the life that I have with, family and dogs and all the rest is that if I turn back into that machine again, everything else gets put to the side.
Yeah.
Family, relationships, all of those things are just they don't become priorities in my mind anymore.
Yeah.
The only priority is getting on that stage into best shape humanly imaginable or somewhat imaginable because some of the physiques that I achieved were just, never ever thought I could look like that. And that's it. You just become this absolute machine where, like, if someone tells me what to do, a coach in particular, like, I will do it to the finest letter. There was never any bit of, oh, I'll just have this today, or, I'll deviate slightly.
Yeah.
There probably wasn't a single day in those 4 years that I actually deviated from the
And
plan
yeah.
whatsoever.
And you said something there where people kind of came into you when you're in the gym and they're kind of looking to lose weight. And for people kind of listening to this now, and I suppose I'm kind of being a bit selfish. This is probably a question for myself. Is it too late? And I'm kind of looking at, so obviously, since we last talked, when did we last talk? Would that have been last year or was it in the last 8 or 9 months? Was Donegal born? Was Donegal born when?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was
So
just
like,
after being born. Yeah,
to me now, I just kind of I want him to see. I actually mentioned this in my last podcast, so people here is going off for fuck's sake. Um,
there he goes again.
yeah, but I kind of want him to see, an active dad, a healthy looking dad.
Of
Um,
course.
and is it too late for people in their 40s, 50s, 60s to pick up weight training? And so, what would the benefits of that be for them in later life,
Mhm.
especially?
Yeah, of course. And look, I think there's more and more data coming out on this recently as more and more people in their, you're a bit younger now, but in their 50s and 60s and 70s are even taking up weight training. And the benefits are just incredible in terms of, after the age of about 35, 40 in men, our testosterone level starts to degrade, right? It's
Mm,
natural part of aging process. With that, our muscle mass reduces, our body fat levels usually go up,
mm,
and all the other associated things like, the dad bod as such, right?
yeah,
So part of that is self-inflicted, as you're aware, and
yeah,
part of that is just a natural aging process in men. So obviously, if you're starting earlier in life, like that's one wonderful thing about the last number of years. We are seeing more and more young people, 17s, 18s, 20s up getting into the gym. Like you
yeah,
go back 20 years, maybe even 30 years, I don't think that was a thing. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like it was kind of becoming a thing when I was in school, but the guys that went to the gym were the guys that played sports. It was the
yeah,
GA, it was the rugby, it was running, whatever it was. It wasn't just people who went to the gym.
yeah,
That concept wasn't even really there, I don't think. So that's great. If you start earlier in life, fantastic. you're just setting yourself off on the right path as long as you don't do what I do and completely mangle yourself and slip loads of discs and have multiple other issues.
Yeah,
But arguably, we take it too far.
yeah.
So no, it's never too late. It is probably the number one way to actually reverse aging related issues and aches and pains and loss of muscle mass and bone density. It will stand to you for life, like
Mm.
literally for life. Some of my oldest members in the gym in Galway, I absolutely loved coaching them. We're in their 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And that's both men and women, and it was incredible to see. Not only did they see the benefits from a point of view of independence, I think that's my number one fear with the back injuries. And now I'm really starting to look after them properly. Now that I'm in Lithuania, they have incredible healthcare here.
Mm.
So, and there's more readily available, I suppose. That was the one issue with Ireland, is that our healthcare system is good, but it's overwhelmed and it's not readily
Yeah.
available. But no matter if you want to go private or public, didn't really matter, right? I was on a
Yeah.
wait list to see a consultant for about 6 months, probably, and then he basically told me, "Oh yeah, surgery is your only option," which
Yeah.
it's not. Right?
Yeah.
It's really not. There's hundreds of other options out there that I can take. Um, so looking after your body, I suppose, is the big part of it, and not going hammer and tongs straight away, which you probably tried a few times, and as you
Yeah.
realize, you get fairly sore and fairly fed up of it fairly quickly.
Oh,
And
lads.
also, I believe social media plays into this, but people set mad unrealistic expectations of themselves. Like
Yeah.
over the past, 4 or 5 years, I've taken long breaks. Absolutely. And I love going to the gym. The gym was my life.
Mm.
I've taken 2, 3, 4 month breaks at a time where I might go for walks, but I don't necessarily lift weights, or at least it's not nothing consistent.
Yeah.
And is there anything wrong with that? Absolutely not. No. And for, again, time wise, I probably go now, my new plan, I've upped it by one day, which is 4 days a week
Yeah.
for about 40 minutes of a time. And then the
Okay.
rest of that, I go for sauna a little bit. Obviously, I do my dips in the morning in that river right over my shoulder. But it's realistic for me at the minute in terms of what I'm capable of. I
Yeah.
haven't been on, a really strict bodybuilding style program for, 6, 7, 8 years. So for me to go straight back into that would be unrealistic. And I have a
Yeah.
coach. I will always have coaches no matter what I do, whether it's in business or my health or my wellness or mentally, physically. I suppose number one, I need someone to rein me back in,
Yeah.
but also it takes that burden out of my head of having to come up with my workouts and stay accountable to myself and things like that. It just didn't appeal to me, where there's fantastic coaches out there, and downloading some template off the internet, again, anyone can do that, asking ChatGPT. But having a coach, no matter what aspect of life it is, you're not paying for the golden nuggets. As I said, there's no such thing as golden nuggets, because the
Mm.
internet can tell you everything now. So any coach that says he has a secret, he's lying. All the
Yeah.
secrets are on the internet. What you're paying for is accountability, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm paying a coach. Is I need someone to keep me accountable, to hold my hand, and that sounds ridiculous coming from an ex-professional bodybuilder, but I do. I
Mm.
need someone to keep me accountable, to hold me to my word, and to say that I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So if anyone is on the fence about getting a coach, there's coaches of all ages, shapes, genders, sizes. It's about connecting with that person. Um, and really, you're paying for accountability, and accountability, in my mind, it's priceless.
And that's a nice segue into Sarah then. So I would have worked with she, I think it was last year at this stage,
Yeah.
and really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, 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 really good. And I do plan to go back at some stage. And I suppose the accountability piece was great, especially along the lines of setting up the PsychFit program. And that was kind of going into gyms, working with gyms, offering the exercise psychology support. And that was really well received. I suppose for you, I suppose, how would you describe SARE? What does SARE do? And I suppose, what are the
Mhm.
benefits for its members?
Yeah. So like that, we work with various levels and various stages of business. I suppose that's the first and foremost thing. A lot of people think that you need a mentor, when you're already in business,
Mm.
right? You've already set your name, your logos, you have maybe a couple of packages and prices and whatnot. But really, it's a bit like learning to drive a car, right? We all start to drive a car on our own, but then we start to develop these bad habits. And then when we actually go and do lessons, we're like, oh, Jesus, sure, I'm basically starting from scratch, right?
Yeah,
I know how to move a car forward and back. That's as far as it goes.
yeah,
And business is kind of the same. And the way I look at it is, why would you waste time and energy and potentially money on trying to figure it out when, we as a group of professionals have various backgrounds all within the health and fitness industry. But whether it's Maxine that comes from a huge customer care background and retention and
Mm.
keeping members, she's incredible at accountability. Whether it's me that comes from, the boutique fitness studio background and bringing in the Wim Hof method and wellness. Shane works with the larger scale boutiques that have multi sites, big commercial gyms. So we have a huge, extensive background between us all. So why would you not come to someone like us who can show you the path as opposed to you figuring out the path like I had to? Like I
Yeah.
wasted so much money and so much time in the beginning, especially when I was an online coach. Because I was an online coach before I entered into a bricks and mortar
Yeah.
business. And there was so many mistakes. So many. Like I never built a recurring revenue stream. Like something that is so basic and so, makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a recurring revenue stream, you could look at loans or mortgages or,
Yeah.
try approach a bank with that. And albeit in that online business, I was making really, really good money. I was spending it just as much as
Yeah.
well because I didn't understand, what to do with my money. I got a couple of mentors that charged me insane figures. Didn't really do a whole pile. It was more like, here's a template, follow that type
Yeah.
thing. And that really turned me off the whole mentorship, I suppose, thing in general, or the whole consultancy, that anyone that kind of went to it was, oh yeah, here's a big library of stuff. Here's a template of a 7, 8, 12 figure gym, and just follow that template, and that's what will work, or here's the same for an online coaching business. Uh, yeah, but I don't want to do that. They're like, oh, but this model works. Okay, but I don't like that model, and
Yeah.
that's where I was coming from. Then when Sarah approached me and Shane, I kind of was like, well, what's your approach here? How do you go about doing this? Like, do you hand templates and just say kind of off with you? Is that absolutely not, not a chance. It's like there's enough of those people out there, and we're not one of them. And then that was my decision to kind of jump into Sayre and start working with them. Was that it's a very personal approach, as you probably noticed yourself. Like it's not there's no templates. It's right, Dennis. What do you want to do with your business? How do you want to do it? Do you want to work 120 hours a week? Do you want to work 40 hours a week and spend the rest of the time with your family? And then let's
Yeah.
build that path to that, right? As opposed to me saying, Dennis, this is how you should run your business. This will get you to 6 figures in 12 months. If you don't do that, well, look, you probably just didn't do it right,
Yeah.
and you're after spending loads of money, and now you're just kind of like, oh, where do I go from here? I did this for 12 months and I'm no better on, as opposed to a one-to-one proper approach whereby we work, you know, tandem, working on your business to make it better.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I told you this, but I remember this is a good bit before I joined Sarah, but there was a webinar with some business guru, some coach, and he came through and he had his model and he was guaranteeing you this and guaranteeing you that. And there was just something in my gut. I was like, "Yeah, this isn't for me." So then he arranged a one-to-one call to alleviate my concerns, and he was
Mhm.
guaranteeing me I'd make 100 grand within a year. I remember just asking how. There was just something, what's the plan? And he couldn't tell me. Oh, you go through my academy and look, if you don't make your 6 figures, you can stay in the academy as long as you want. I'm kind of going bluffer. There was a lot of bluffers out there, and to be fair, my experience there
Yeah.
was really, really good. And just with Sarah, right, and you were obviously working in your own gym at the time, so imagine you were busy.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
that's for sure.
how did you find splitting that? Because you're going to mention yourself that you might find it hard to maybe do a few different things, but how did you find running your own business and being a consultant to other people's businesses?
Mhm. I had to be extremely strict on myself, like
Mm,
extremely so. I was lucky that the gym was predominantly just mornings, so I would
yeah,
do like a 6 to 10, 6 to 11 in the gym, and then I would go home and work from the office from the rest of the day, maybe like a 2 to 6 or a 2 to 7, and I
yeah,
would do that Monday to Thursday, and then I never ever worked weekends after my first 2 years in the gym.
yeah,
I tried not to work weekends from there on out, but then of course I would do retreats or do other
yeah,
things. So yeah, I do put a lot on my plate, and that's I suppose that was the kind of final straw for me. And that was like, I'm not giving the gym my best. I'm not giving Sarah my best. I'm not giving my retreats the best. What two things do I love doing the most? And what can I see myself doing for the next, 5, 10 years, let's say?
Yeah.
And ultimately that was Sarah. And that was the wellness retreats and breath work
Yeah.
and wellness coaching in general. I love it. It's similar to fitness, but it's a little bit deeper again, I suppose, not too dissimilar to what you do, I suppose, but you're more the performance side of things. I'm
Yeah.
more like, I just want to take people out of stress. I just
Yeah.
want to give them a bit of relief because I was lucky enough to meet some really good breathwork instructors or yoga or whatever it was along my journey in business. And the sense of relief that came from, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, a weekend retreat, the sense of relief and just freeness and rejuvenation and drive and passion again.
Yeah.
Like it was unwavering as to the feelings that you can have after something like that.
And was it, and you obviously mentioned there why you kind of focused on the Sarah piece, but was it difficult selling your business? Like, was it kind of emotional? You're like, oh my God,
Hmm.
that's a big step. Like, because I know we would have talked, and you've mentioned here already, but even when we were talking, you mentioned the importance of community. And if anyone looks up, Elevate Galway, Google, the Google reviews, it was all 5 star, really, 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 really good feedback. That's a big kind of step to take, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, it was, and it was conflicting for a while, because a lot of what we did was smaller groups, right? It wasn't big, massive groups. So I know everyone personally. I knew their family members even. I knew, more about them than most people probably do. So no, I had no emotional attachment to Elevator or the business or anything like that. What I did was have, an attachment to the clients that were there, the members, and some of them are still my friends to this day, even people who have left, 4, 5, 6 years ago
Yeah,
and maybe changed country or immigrates or changed jobs. I still speak to them regularly, and
yeah,
I think I always will. It's part of just who I am, I guess. So yeah, leaving that side of it was difficult, but I also found a lovely, lovely guy, also called Daire, which is quite funny,
yeah,
to take over Elevate and to give it the drive and the passion and the power that it needed again. And that's exactly what he will do.
yeah,
So I was glad about that part. I thought that was the final kind of piece to put together was right. Who now is going to step into Elevate and take this and give it the energy and the passion and the drive that it needs again that I couldn't give it anymore.
yeah.
Who is going to be that? And literally through an Instagram message reaching out, I'd known Dara for a while and we did a couple of bits in the gym together. And I was like, yeah, he's the guy for this. And he is. He's doing incredibly well. And he's actually a SARE member as well. So he works with us now as well.
Very good. And this was similar enough question, a big move and whatnot, but what made you leave the sunny shores of Galway to Lithuania?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of factors in this, obviously. Look, I wasn't the grass is always greener. That was not the case. It was that's a difficult thing to say, I suppose, was I struggled to see a future in Ireland. That's
Yeah,
a really difficult thing to say considering it's my home and it has been for 30 years. Um, in terms of just settling down, we've got 3 dogs. It's hard enough rent in Ireland anyways, regardless of having dogs or
yeah,
not. And then it was the cost of everything, like the cost of building, the prices of property, being self-employed, they don't look favorably when you go to banks anyways.
yeah,
And it was just all becoming too much, to be honest. It was just the stress and the pressure. And actually, I was in a taxi here the other day. Met a lovely guy. He's lived in the UK, Ireland, and Lithuania. And I think he described Lithuania perfectly. In Lithuania, you have the choice to get into the rat race. In Ireland and the UK, you don't. I thought
yes,
that was very well put. I was like, yeah, if you have to get into the rat race just to survive. Never
yeah,
mind to do really well. Like, but in Lithuania you can do well and have a life. And there's a huge emphasis here on nature. And weekends are weekends. There's a bit of
yeah,
construction that goes on in our building here sometimes, and God forbid you'll hear a hammer or a drill on a Sunday.
yeah,
all out bloody war. There's signs up like no banging, it has to be quiet. And it's just a very relaxed way of living. And I feel like that's what I needed. I needed that little bit of a slower pace of life, going from 12 years of all in, 60, 70, 80, 100 plus hour weeks, very little holidays to now being able to, work my 20 to 30 hours a week, have my evenings. I don't have to, start at 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning if I don't want to. I can start
Yeah.
around, 8 or 9, go to the gym, take the dogs for a walk. It's how I envisioned my life after putting in that much work for that amount of time. It was, right. I did this in my 20s. I sacrificed a huge part of my 20s to build
Mhm.
my businesses and to build my profile within the industry that allowed me then to not sit back. I'm not a millionaire by any stretch of the imagination or anything like that, but just take a little bit of a step back momentarily to realign and to realize where I want this to go.
And yeah, because the what you said with Ireland there definitely rings true. Myself and Ash were already chatting about it recently. It definitely feels like a country that whatever your social status is, it's very hard to move up. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know, if you have a business and you sell it, great, but tax will take a massive lump of that. You know what I mean? For people who, you know, a fella at work actually, his partner is with Amazon and they get shares. But the problem then when
Mm-hmm.
you get shares, they will sell them. The government takes half that.
Yeah.
Whereas it is very much, it does feel that way here. No, obviously I'm here. I've a married house, kids, the whole shebang. But it's definitely something I would agree with. The cost of everything is insane. You know, it's very much. It does feel like a dim and us vibe here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously things are going on in terms of um, inflation, immigration, the health service, education, there's probably issues across a wide variety of things. And I think Ireland will be a very different place in 10 or 15 years' time, maybe not for the better. Do you see yourself ever coming back, or is Lithuania now your home, do you think?
Great question. I haven't been asked that one yet. I don't think so, at least not for a prolonged period of time. Now that I'm not necessarily tied to any one location,
Yes, yeah,
um, essentially, my fiance and I are kind of free to go where we
wherever.
like.
Yeah,
Yeah, essentially. And I don't see that being Ireland anytime soon. But, never say never. It's still, it's where I was born, still Irish, still home. But in the near to immediate future, no, I don't see it happening unless some drastic changes are made in Ireland, and it looks a little bit more like right now as a young people with good jobs and everything. Now you're given the opportunity to start your life.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And even like you look at the issues with housing, I look at Donica, he's only one, but I'm kind of going, like, will he ever have the opportunity to own a house? Will it be all
Mm-hmm.
apartments? Will it be, will Cork City turn into an area where it's full of apartments and, he won't experience country living, for example? There are
Mm-hmm.
even now not a lot of people can build their own house and whatnot, but will you ever experience something like that? And you're kind of, whereas this was when we were growing up or when we were one, our parents would have been very confident that we would have had those things, and definitely our
Yeah.
grandparents, for our parents, would have been confident. I think that's
Yeah.
definitely changing. And we're nearly at the end there, so before we come to our quick fire questions, do you see yourself setting up a business in Lithuania?
Uh, yes.
Ooh, what area do you think? Or is you keeping it close to your chest?
Close to the chest for now. It'll be close to the wellness industry, shall we say?
Okay, very good, very good.
Yeah.
So now we've got 5 questions here for you. I'm going to make these up on the spot, so there
Go.
might be a little bit of a lag between question one and two, well, I think. But what's the best piece of advice that you've been given?
Roll with the punches and get ready to strike back.
Very, very good. Are you a man for regret?
Never.
What is the best thing in the world for you?
Ooh. Time outside of my own head.
Yeah, it's time to, yeah, I like that one. Um, I heard that question on another podcast, and the reply was uh, past guest was on it, and his reply, I can't remember what his reply was, but I remember from my lens kind of going, the best thing in the world for me is Donica laughing as a 1 year old. It's just incredible. But everyone's lens is different, so I love it. I kind of will be keeping that question going forward.
Hmm.
And what's your biggest achievement to date?
Ooh, biggest achievement today. Been a few, but I think helping so many people along the way, whether it be just a general chat in the gym or whether it be with their health, their fitness, their mental health, their physical health. Yeah, I think just having help, knowing that I've helped literally thousands and thousands of people now at this stage
Brilliant.
become a little bit happier, a little bit stronger, and a little bit healthier.
What are your top three tips for people to help them smash 2025?
Um, have a vision, have a purpose, and have an action plan to both achieve your vision and stay true to your purpose.
And there's obviously, if people are struggling with any of the three of them, they can get in touch with yourself through Sarah for a bit of help.
Absolutely.
Dara, thanks so much, man, for coming on. Really, really insightful. Really enjoyed the chat. I'm looking at the clock here, and it's absolutely flying by. But I would love to have you back on again. I wish you all the best in life in Lithuania. Um, I'll throw your social stuff with the link of this when it goes up. For anyone who is listening, make sure to give Dara a follow. Especially the stuff from Lithuania, the stuff you're putting up, and obviously you're breeding the Wim Hof method. We really get into that, but follow him for some great insights, and even the videos you put up of Lithuania when it's covered in snow was just unbelievable. Things like that. But Dara, thanks so much, man. I wish you all the best for 2025, and keep smashing it.
Likewise, Dennis. Thanks so much, man.
Cheers, buddy.